But again, for our next speaker, I'd like to reintroduce Jeffrey Young.
I was hoping that I wouldn't have to speak. Despite all the talks that I do, you never quite feel comfortable, particularly being in a room with so many great people with so much knowledge of coffee and coffee shop experience, running businesses. I feel very humbled. Thanks again, of course, to our sponsors. Big thank you also to our speakers who've come all the way from many parts of the world. And again, before I forget, a thank you to my team at Allegra who've done a great job in bringing this all together. It's so hard to bring so many people together from all parts of the world, so many people. So thanks very much to the whole Allegra team for being part of this journey behind the scenes. I know you interacted with many of them. Right, my little clicker, I guess, is here. Is that going to work? Yeah. A little touch on the Allegra group. I think most of you know us, but we've got some new friends in the room, so I'll just give you a little bit of a lowdown on what we do. Yeah. Some global trends, continuation from last year, those that were in the room last year, some nuances, still some big themes coming out across the world that are very much sort of embedded, and we all need to sort of pay attention to these things, we believe. And then some highlights, some advanced findings from our Project Cafe USA report. Anya Marco, a big thank you to Anya as well, who's been key to this research. So we'll bring her up at the end for a quick Q&A session, because she's got a lot of the detail for this report. She's been tirelessly working to get not only speakers coordinated, but also to get this research ready in time for this event. Thanks, Tom. Unlike Le Pain Quotidien, we're probably live the other side of simplicity, and that's, we like to do a lot of things and explore the world. So we've grown from being a strategic research consultancy where we focused on sort of consumer lifestyle, with coffee was at the core. We've built a lot of activities around coffee in particular, and they range from publications. You will all get copies of our New York coffee guide in our goodie bags, and ready for our tour tomorrow. So that's one of our activities. We've obviously got the New York Coffee Festival tomorrow, which is also starting. That's part of our events division. We've got some wonderful cultural and creative things like the Coffee Music Project, Coffee Art Project. Fundamentally, I'm really proud that a lot of our activities go towards charitable aspects, as well as obviously making a good living. We believe in giving back, and the Allegra Foundation, which we created some 6 years ago now, is about giving clean water to human beings. And through our foundation, through our festivals, and through our coffee weeks, and through our little books like the Meaning of Coffee, we like to try to give back. Tonight we'll be having a charity art auction from the Coffee Art Project in New York City. We had over 100 really talented artists submit their work, and we've got some of the best pieces, 8 tonight. So we'd love at our dinner tonight for some of you guys to walk away with those beautiful art pieces, but all going for a great cause. So that's enough of my advertising. Global trends. Probably step back, and again, I feel sort of completely humbled because I'm in a room of so much coffee knowledge. We literally, among us, there are literally sort of hundreds and hundreds, thousands of years of experience in this industry. And many of us have been and seen a lot of the trends. We've created a little framework, which works around the sort of the third wave that people were talking about, and put this into a framework and added on, bolted on a fourth evolution of a marketplace. And we see, across the world, we see different markets in different phases, and it's really interesting being here in New York, in the States, and looking at the trends here, and also looking at a big brand like Starbucks, which really is responsible in so many ways for the second wave, which is the branded chains. The beginning of lifestyle, we see such a flourishing third wave coffee culture here in the States, and also in many, many parts of the world. You know, even in tea drinking London, we now have something like 30,000 visitors to our London Coffee Festival. And it's a huge revolution, this third wave. And we're really excited, and we've got a few speakers here at the end of the day who are much more on the spectrum of the fourth wave, the science of coffee, and that's about perfecting every element. And I think, you know, back to Mark's point on quality centric, I think if I can come to one fundamental point today, it's around increasing quality in every aspect of your business, because consumer expectations are rising. So that framework really sets the tone for how we look at a market. And different markets are evolving from traditional behavior all the way up to very, very specialist, perfecting every element of the coffee experience and production. I'll run through these really quickly. The rise of branded chains. I can't believe, nearly 20 years later, that chains are still growing. It's phenomenal, but it's because the big chains, whether it's Starbucks or at a different scale, the Packaging and others, they're perfecting for the crafting and learning from the little guys. That evolution has been really, really important. So it's an industry that hasn't stood still. So we're seeing still massive rises of chain concepts, businesses that are well run. What we will see though is that the chains that are not adapting, the good players and the bad players in the market are losing ground very, very quickly to higher quality chains. We see a lot of M&A activity. Jab Holdings, for example, have made some major investments in the last year, and more M&A activity is currently seeing quite a lot. There's a recognition that this is a very valuable industry. It's not a niche industry anymore. Artists of coffee, again, enough said about that. The craft, the love of coffee, most of us in this room, really get it. We know that, it's about quality, it's about, micro roasted product. It's about, it's about the love of coffee, and it's about, perfecting and sort of a barista experience in many cases, or a technical solution that really is focused on great taste in the cup. Ice beverage. Doug from La Colombe spoke last year about there isn't a fourth wave. There's a ice beverage revolution, and to some extent he is absolutely right. Cold brew is certainly here. It's part of the fabric of the US market, and it's growing very much in many other countries. Iced beverages, really are popular. They've enabled businesses to seasonalize, to reduce the seasonality in the businesses, but also younger. We're going to talk a little bit about consumer behavior in a minute. And younger consumers, see ice beverages as really the core offering. Food innovation. I think we're going to hear from Nick Stone a little bit later in the room, and there's a business that has not only great coffee, but has exceptional food, and they're winning. And I guess that's part of the success of the Packaging as well. So food is one of those areas that, if you're a individual coffee shop or a coffee chain, if you're not innovating and if you're not keeping up with sort of the need for really delicious food and healthy food, I'm going to move on to the next slide here. Health and wellness, again, is really a key trend. We will be, as a group, launching a festival of wellness, tangential to this world in coffee, because the whole sort of wellness sector is really on fire at the moment. And I think be aware of this, not only in food development, but it could have some long-term implications for coffee as well. We are still predicting plenty of growth of coffee, but I think one of the things that we do detect, and I think this is, I'd rather be honest about some of the things that we see in the marketplace, is we do see some people turning away from coffee. There are younger consumers now, and I just think we need to be aware of this. The rise of specialty tea, again, it's all about variety, it's all about quality, loose leaf teas. Again, another, not necessarily a competition, but it's actually an enhancement to the industry. And again, really, the biggest thing to consider for the next few years is the changing shape of consumers. Young consumers today are so different. I even look at the experience within our team and the way that young consumers look at their lives. They're so driven, self-learners, self-researchers. They're so individual, and their behaviour is so different, so less routine. Social media is a given, and it plays into again to the sort of the technology, consumer-centric technologies that are really part of this digital mesh where consumer is completely embedded into our lives, and this is only going to increase. So again, just areas to to make sure your business is aware of, and we can dive into the detail and questions. Transparency, again, these consumers, young consumers, and even of us, we want to know that we're dealing with honest, ethical people. We want to know where our coffee comes from. We want to know, so hence an increase in direct sourcing. But it's more than that. It's about being a clean business. It's about being honest with our customers, with our staff. Back to the young consumers, they don't believe what we tell them anymore. They only believe what we do, and I think that's fundamental. Urbanisation. Good news. I'm a city type. I've always lived in cities, and cities are getting bigger and better, I believe. In many ways, sort of urban design, the landscaping of urban areas now, there's a lot of thought being put into it. I've been cycling around New York City on the city bikes, and but that's only part of it. Young consumers now are not driving. People want to live in clean, healthy cities, and over the next 10, 15, 20 years, we are going to experience a real revolution. One day, perhaps the end of the petrol engine I know that's crazy to say in a country like America, but I think we're going to see driverless cars that are going to be, Uber. Nobody may own a car. Who knows? There's so much fluidity, and cities are becoming wonderful places. But cities and coffee shops play into this. Every single building, which is getting cities getting more and more vertical. That's more opportunity for us to create coffee shops that people can come to and live their lives. Apartments are getting smaller. I'm hearing, even absolutely in this city and in London as well, we're starting to see these co-shared arrangements where apartments are being released with very tiny bedrooms and maybe co-shared lounge rooms. But actually, the coffee shop becomes your lounge room. The coffee shop becomes your workplace. So urban developments are going to make this industry thrive for many years to come. Premiumisation of quality at home. We're very thankful that we've got DeLonghi here today, pushing out great product and actually being part of this revolution of coffee at home. We would have to say that it's Nespresso, again a global brand. It's done a lot to bring in premium quality coffee into the homes, but as is others, and we have Maxwell talking today, and Khaled, two young, very sort of, well, they're already established, but very young entrepreneurs doing some really premium stuff for the home. Perhaps even taking on Nespresso, who knows? And we've got Nespresso in the room today as well. So it's really fantastic. This notion that coffee in the home is getting better is not a competitor to the out of home segment. It's actually very synergistic. It's actually great because
attention please. This is your fire safety director. The New York City Fire Department is on site. A test of the fire command system is being conducted. Please disregard all alarms. Attention please. Attention please. This is your fire safety director. New York City Fire Department is on site. A test of the fire command system is being conducted. Please remain calm. This is just a test. Disregard all alarms. Thank you.
whether it's going to come back or not. That might be it. Let's hope so.
Jeffrey, I'm really glad I went first now.
Yeah.
Before, but now I'm feeling better.
What was I saying? Premium coffee at home. Yeah, that's great news. This is great news for everyone because one of the crazy ideas I've been wanting to do is to do a T-shirt and actually sell it at our festivals. And great coffee is a blessing and a curse because once you've had great coffee, you never go back. Human beings are more and more concerned with what they're putting into their bodies, and quality and great coffee is, one of those things. Give it to them, and they'll buy more of it. Final thing that we see in traveling the world, and again, really important from a business point of view, and I think sometimes the baristas are the forgotten people in an industry that really depends on these guys to take that consumer experience to the last, that last point. We do all this work in sourcing great coffee and roasting it, machinery, etc. But the barista really is a fundamental link, not only in terms of the preparation of the coffee, but also in that relationship with the customer, and never underestimate the importance of that at all. Finally, some really quick snapshots from our US report. Anya's got the full report with her. Yeah. So this is I'm just going to take you really briefly through. I won't give you too much detail because we want you to buy this thing, or at least interact with us. Now, this is again, we're on a journey. We don't claim to have all the answers. We're about pioneering research and knowledge and helping this industry to grow through data. We believe that there is a gap of knowledge in this sector in terms of robust data on particularly the branded segment. The branded segment is the largest segment. So we've begun the journey, and the journey has only begun here, and we want all your help to make this better, to build this. And this is Project Cafe USA. I'll give you the details of it. So we conducted 60 interviews with people across the industry, some of yourselves in the room, but we've got a lot more people in this room who haven't been interviewed, so we want to talk to you and continue that dialogue because there's a lot more work to be done. We've interviewed 5,000 US coffee drinkers, coffee shop visitors, but again, we've only scratched the surface. Ultimately, we want to make this a truly, truly national survey. Perhaps 500 to 1,000 industry executives, and perhaps 100,000 consumers, where we don't do things in small ways here at Allegra. And this is our journey. We believe we've got some very robust data for this first report, but we want you to come on a journey with us in actually pioneering research, deep research, because it's important that we all know what the facts are. Branded coffee market, as we've analysed, is again, it's not a niche market, and that's why there's so much M&A activity. It's a $41 billion US dollar market and growing at 7.4%.
May I have your attention, please? May I have your attention, please? This concludes all tests on the fire command system. Thank you very much. Disregard all alarms. This is your fire safety director. This concludes all tests on the fire command system. Thank you very much.
I thought that was going to be a real one. Right, so we've got 35,000 outlets of branded chains, 1,000 new outlets. Now, how many sectors of the economy could really claim this level of growth? It's really staggering. We're in a positive industry now. Got some data from the interviews in a minute, which I'll highlight. So, growth market. We've segmented the market into the coffee-focused chains and the food-focused chains, which would include the bakery segment in the food-focused chains. So, some of the usual suspects. Clearly, starts being a dominant player, and again, a business that's doing some very good things, very innovative with. A lot of the mega trends that we're talking about: technology, tea, craft coffee. There's for those of you not aware, there's going to be a very, very striking roastery in the meatpacking district. I believe it's next year for Starbucks. So there's an industry leader that is really driving things forward, and I think that's good for us. And there's a host of other very large players. Likewise, in the food-focused coffee segment, still, again, a very, very big market there. Just looking at the industry, yes, we're an optimistic industry. I think that's part of the nature of who we are. But also, it's not just anecdotal. This is actually real. We're seeing growth, and 90% of those we survey see great opportunities for coffee in general, but also for branded chains. Believing that, it's difficult times in some ways for consumers, but it's pretty solid for the industry. 75% of those that we interviewed, this is the industry now, I'll move to the consumers in a minute, believe that, consumer spend is holding up, but consumers sort of embed, value into their, so you can't take consumers for granted, that's for sure. But it's actually about growing. The specialty coffee segment is growing, and this is the part of our segment which is growing, which is good news for all of us. Now moving on to some of the consumer research that we did. Location still very, very important, but as is great tasting coffee, and a really positive outcome there is that 24% say they're going to be visiting more often in the next 12 months. So consumers are very, very optimistic about. They love coffee shops. It's part of the fabric of our world. And indeed, we've got like 66% visiting on a weekly basis. So we actually have so much share of consumer mind. Consumer spend 526, including food. Two kind of counterbalancing points there. Price does affect their frequency of visits, so if we were cheaper, we could sell more potentially. But actually, consumers are prepared for quality and they're prepared to pay more for quality. I think that's the more takeaway point. I think that slide on work, unfortunately, didn't get those should be 8 cups on that work slide there. So a lot of consumption at work, a lot of consumption at home. Glass coffee filter, and it's very interesting that, I wouldn't say the decline of filter's still very big, but we're seeing, and I think the next slide, I think this is my final slide. I'm going to leave. This is really interesting, because this is about how consumers are changing. And if you look at the young millennials, in terms of what their consumption behavior is, it's very different from the later generations. Iced coffees, Doug from from La Colombe was absolutely right last year. Iced coffee is, a super trend, particularly with the youngers. But also espresso-based beverages, cappuccinos, lattes. The flat white is here now. Be aware of the trends in the younger consumers. I think that's it for me. Thank you very much.
Yeah, you can't run away. You have questions
No,
to
I'd
answer.
like Anya to come and join because she's a wealth of knowledge. And she also just does a great job in managing our
All right,
research
yeah, get up there.
program. So I'd like to give a round of applause for Anya.
A not very subtle hint.
Is that the Allegra calendar?
Yeah.
Great.
It's got pictures of Jeff and I in different poses.
Are there any questions around the room?
See, now I'm up here, there isn't.
Greetings. You had mentioned that the startling truth in some cases consumers are shifting away from coffee, especially younger consumers.
Mm-hmm.
What do you see them shifting to? Why are they shifting? What's the cause behind this?
Yeah, we're doing a lot of work. I mean, I think we like to make sure we, as a business, look at the big picture. And so we've done an enormous amount of direct research on the wellness sector, first beginning in the UK, but we're also quite aware of what's going on here in the US, and we'll launch a wellness study here in the US as well. You only got to go up to some of the more trendier neighborhoods and look at the rise of juice, cold pressed juice in particular, even sort of premium teas as well. I think there are more people that are consciously saying, that I haven't quite ever detected this in the past. In the last couple of years, and particularly in the last 12 months, I have had a lot more conversations with people which are cutting back on coffee or kind of switching to, I think cold pressed juices, particularly in cities like New York. I mean, we're talking $11 for a cold pressed juice. So there doesn't seem to be in that segment much consumer price sensitivity, and whether it's generation juice, cold pressed, I mean, you see them popping up everywhere in the city. But it's also part of this sort of Lycra, athleisure. There's a whole lifestyle around health. And I think the coffee industry needs to make sure that we're in tune with it.
Yeah. We've also got, we asked the question to consumers, and we have 41% of consumers saying they do pay attention to the media talking about the health attributes or not of coffee, and in fact it's the older millennials that take more attention to that. So they're the ones that are shifting particularly, so the sort of 24 to 34 year olds from coffee because of potential media scares and discussions around health aspects around coffee, and therefore looking towards teas and, as Jeffrey quite rightly said, juices. So it's very much on the agenda for consumers, and especially the younger people.
Yeah, I don't think it's doomsday at all in any shape or form. I think this is an opportunity for quality. That is, I think, the main message. It's an opportunity, if you're a coffee operator, to add matcha, Califia Farm, almond iced lattes to your menus. There are opportunities in all this as well, but there are also opportunities for higher quality coffee, because consumers, I love coffee, in general, and we're not going to see the end of this anytime soon. So I just want to be clear about it, but we are detecting this. There are some consumers who are, and I think just to be aware of it, as an industry, we just need to be aware of it.
Hi. Have you looked at the growth in the ready-to-drink market?
Not specifically, I mean, we haven't any data on it. But it was Todd Carmichael, that spoke last week. But it was Todd Carmichael. The numbers of iced latte, iced cold brew that he's shifting is for nitro cold brew. Phenomenal. We believe it's growing. there's certainly, and you've got Calafia Farms with great product as well as others. So we don't really have the data, I don't think. Do we? No.
We don't have any specific consumer data on RTD, but we do see different trends in different countries. So in the US, it's clearly very embedded in terms of iced tea, in terms of cold brew, nitro is growing. Other places in the world, it's a completely different kettle of fish. In the UK, it's still very minimal. Consumers still haven't got their heads around having tea cold, let alone coffee cold. But cold brew is showing more interest in terms of cold coffee is rising in interest. It's not yet following through in sales for the UK, but obviously Starbucks is leading with having cold brew as part of its mainstay, so is now Costa the leader in the UK. So, and then if you look in the Scandinavias, obviously, RTD there is stronger. So it just depends on the market, and we're seeing differences in different markets.
Any other questions in the room?
Adam?
Does the research look at what the drivers are in the shop itself, the cafe itself?
Yeah. Is that it? Yeah. We ask a number of questions in terms of drivers for consumer behaviour, both on choice of where they're going. So why do they choose a coffee shop? As it showed up there, it was location is number one. It's followed by quality of coffee, and then habit. Habit is becoming the number three, if you like, and almost overtaking in some markets in terms of the driver of choice of coffee shop. Then we ask, why did they want to have a coffee in the first place? What was it that made them want it? And we're finding that functional reasons, so, it's something I have every day, but that's being closely followed by the need for indulgence. So while we know that there is a health and wellness agenda, we are also balancing that as an industry with the desire from consumers to want a treat. Coffee is an affordable treat. It's seen as something that they can indulge, relax, feel good, with having that. And then we also ask, why do you revisit? So that was one of the other points that was up on one of those slides, is that 27% of consumers come back because of great tasting coffee. We also know that people will not return again if the coffee tastes bad or the service is terrible. So we look at drivers in a number of different ways throughout the report.
But I think the research also shows that there are a growing number of factors why a consumer will visit a given venue, environment, technology. There's a lot of factors that we unpack in a lot of our reports.
Yeah, as we've been looking at various different markets over the years, we've seen the number one reason for choosing a coffee shop changing dramatically, and there are so many reasons now that it's no longer good. You have to have Wi-Fi. You have to have a great experience. You have to have an atmosphere. You have to have a clean shop. You have to not be too busy, but not be too quiet. There are so many different things now where a consumer will pick just one of the list, and there's more and more reasons. So drivers are becoming far more complicated than ever before as consumers have more choice.
More questions?
All right, let's hear it for Jeffrey and Anya.
Thank you.